XRP ETF goes live on the New York Stock Exchange tomorrow. And today we're going to be covering some of the XRP ETF inflows that have already happened here inside the United States. After the Rex Osprey hybrid spot ETF is live, we saw over $24 million worth of inflows in just the first 90 minutes. Well, starting tomorrow, we are going to have the Grayscale Krypto 5 ETF. And what is this, Mario? This is an ETF that's going to be offering Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, and of course, 5% XRP. We're going to show our listeners how this is just the beginning for the institutional floodgates opening and for retail investors finally witnessing the moment we've been waiting for when it comes to XRP on the New York Stock Exchange. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. And you love these videos, show us some love, smash that like button and subscribe as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, this was the major update we received just about an hour ago out of Bloomberg that reported the Grayscale CoinDesk Krypto 5 ETF is the new name of GDLC, which is scheduled to begin trading on the New York Stock Exchange tomorrow. Now, what does this offer, Mario? It offers Bitcoin at 70%, Ethereum at 17%, and XRP with that third spot at 5% allocation. This is going to be offered directly to institutional investors that have access to the New York Stock Exchange, and it's believed this product could expand to the NASDAQ before the end of the year. Now, we add that into the Rex Osprey ETF, which just came out today, and we're going to show our listeners how $24 million worth of inflows entered the XRP ledger in just the first 90 minutes. And that is way more than the Bloomberg analyst Eric Balanchunas would have thought. For context, that is 5 times more than any of the XRP futures ETFs did in a single day, and it's only been 90 minutes. So when we talk about the XRP market multiplier, Mario, that whole entire thesis is founded on the inflows of the XRP ETF going over $5 billion. And coming with some new evidence today, we're going to show our listeners why it's more likely than not that XRP will do north of $5 billion and maybe even north of $8 billion worth of inflows. So Kevin Cage updated the XRP community stating billions for XRP spot ETFs. Here's why. The spot Ethereum ETF did $26 billion in the first 12 months. With a market cap of $556 billion, that equals about 4.7%. XRP currently has a market cap of $186 billion. Applying the same ETF ratio of about 4.75%, that would be $8.8 billion worth of inflows. And this could be a huge moment for the industry because we know when these inflows are turned on, not only are they on forever, Mario, they are continual. Maybe it's $8 billion in 2026, $12 billion in 2027, $20 billion in 2028. And the dramatic impact that would have on the XRP price cannot be underestimated. Now, I encourage our listeners, stick around until the end of today's episode, because we are also going to show you guys US and UK are working closely on developing crypto oversight. And they called in executives from Bank of America, Barclays, Circle, Citibank, Coinbase, and of course, Ripple to discuss these very important topics. Mario, floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super interesting with the ETFs. And to me, what kind of sticks out the most is the fact that that is going to be, in my opinion, mostly new money, because the money that's coming into ETFs is money that is sitting on the sidelines from people that otherwise would not put it into crypto. But these products becoming available in traditional financial accounts where we know there's a lot of money sitting there, that's going to be great. It's going to be great for the underlying assets. So I do think that over time, over the next few years, we're going to see that amount grow, and it's going to create a good level of legitimacy. It's going to honestly, a great level of exposure even for the asset, where these people will now become familiar with what these assets are, and they will be advised by their advisors on what these different cryptos are and why they should be investing in it. So I think that it's definitely a good thing. And we started out today with this hybrid product from Rex, and we've got the Grayscale product coming here which includes some XRP, which is great. And I do think that this is just setting the stage for us to get those 100% XRP spot products, XRP spot ETFs that will be coming in the next few weeks. I do believe that everything is pointing towards that we will get those XRP ETFs. And if it holds true to what Kevin Cage is predicting, then it's going to be great for the underlying asset class, the underlying asset, because we're going to see that market cap increase. Now, the big question on everybody's minds is, how true will that market cap multiplier hold when we see, $5 billion, $8 billion worth of inflows? Market cap multiplier basically says we're supposed to see hundreds of multiples on those billions of dollars. So we'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, this is awesome for the asset class. We're talking about clarity. We're talking about legitimization and the introduction of products around crypto that go in traditional accounts. That just adds to all of it.
Well, Mario, based on the estimates that we just reported from Kevin Cage, that would lead the XRP price to be north of $12. If you agree, smash that like button and leave a comment underneath the video, because I don't see any other crypto channels reporting the information that we are giving you guys today. There are 19 different XRP ETFs already filed with the SEC. This includes companies like Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, which has 1.5 trillion in assets under management. We've got Bitwise, we've got 21 shares. And the moment that one of these ETF products is approved, the floodgates have opened and institutions have arrived, as they will now be purchasing XRP off the New York Stock Exchange. But one of our friends asked ChatGPT what could happen to the XRP price if we saw $17 billion worth of inflows. Now, Kevin Cage is predicting 8, but if we do anything north of $5 billion, Mario, this price chart is going to get explosive. And ChatGPT gave us moderate, aggressive, and extreme stress case examples where XRP at a minimum is estimated to be between $8 to $12. Now, in an aggressive case, we could see $20 to $30 XRP, and in an extreme case, we could be looking at a $50 XRP before it's all said and done. But that's not the exciting news that our listeners should really be aware of. There is bigger news happening in the background today between the collaboration of the United Kingdom and the United States government. Now, yesterday, we reported on the news that Ripple was in Washington, D.C. speaking to the Senate Banking Committee. Well, it turns out that was the second biggest meeting of the day, as Ripple was also meeting with key executives in the United States government, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Now, what was the purpose of this meeting? Last week, industry groups pressed the British government to include stablecoins and tokenization in the US-UK technology bridge. So the US and the UK plan to work together on cryptocurrency oversight, and representatives like Scott Bessent and Rachel Reeves were called into Washington, D.C. to discuss these topics with industry executives. This includes Bank of America, Barclays, Citibank, Coinbase, Circle, and of course, Ripple and XRP. Now, Circle and Coinbase did not immediately respond for comment, but we did get a comment out of Ripple. And here's what Cassie had to say, the managing director of UK and Europe at Ripple. She said they plan to cooperate and has the potential to set the template for international cooperation in the industry. With this dynamic of the economy in the United States and the UK, deep capital markets, and extensive talent pool, the UK has long been one of the world's leading global financial centers and is now poised to become a leading digital asset and innovation hub. The increased internal collaboration between the UK and US will further serve to unlock the full potential of blockchain technology in both countries. So this is the collaboration that we've been waiting for. And once again, Ripple is a part of the most important meetings in America. You tie this in with the breaking news that we reported on today, the SEC approving the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund. That means XRP will now be available on the New York Stock Exchange. We also have 19 different XRP ETF applications sitting at the SEC waiting for approval in the month of October. And the icing on the cake, guys, is that the ETF inflows that we've reported on today are already breaking records. Imagine when you have a company like Grayscale, a company like Franklin Templeton, which has millions of clients all across the country. They're going to tell their financial advisors, guys, we want 1% exposure to these altcoins. We want 3% exposure to these altcoins. There's going to be some clients out there, Mario, who get on the phone and call their representatives and say, I want over 10% allocation into some of these crypto projects. And for the first time ever, we are going to have the financial vehicles to do so. If you believe it's bullish that Ripple was meeting with the United States government, smash that like button. If you disagree, leave a comment underneath the video. But Mario, what's your key takeaways here that Ripple was called into the room to discuss tokenization of real world assets and stablecoins with both the United States and UK government?
Well, my key takeaway is the fact that Ripple continues to be at the right place at the right time, shaking, the right hands. And so that is very telling in and of itself. The fact that we're seeing Ripple be a part of the regulation that's taking place for crypto in America, the fact that Ripple is being invited to all these different committees and all these different think tanks that are taking place when it comes to creating crypto policies, and now being involved in this US and UK plan that they're working on. I mean, it just tells you that what's happening, what's taking place as far as crypto and the involvement of crypto and blockchain is bigger than we most likely can imagine, because we often talk about how much crypto and blockchain is going to take over of the financial system. But oftentimes, and I speak for myself when I say this, it sometimes feels too good to be true. When we think about the fact that eventually everything can just run on the internet, can just run on blockchain, we think about it where, is it really going to happen? Is the government really going to jump on this blockchain crypto bandwagon? And I think that over the last 12 months, and obviously primarily over the last 9 months since the beginning of this year, that theory has been solidified by how America has completely changed its stance, and it's now really endorsing crypto and creating this amazing environment for the industry. So I like to say this is a crypto advocate's dream come true, because we're getting the policy, we're getting the partnerships, and at the same time, as a Ripple and XRP enthusiast, you can't be anything but excited, right? You have to be excited or not excited, because you have to be excited with the fact that Ripple, again, continues to be at the forefront of a lot of these conversations. It continues to be at the forefront of these important meetings that are taking place. And really, that's a big takeaway for me from all of that.
Well, Mario, supply is also at an all-time low on exchanges like Coinbase. As we've been reporting throughout the last couple of weeks, we showed our listeners the data tells us Coinbase is running out of XRP, and we've speculated it is the ETF issuers that are working hard in the background to accumulate this asset. In the past week, we've watched this portfolio go from 165 million units of XRP to less than 60 million units today. You heard that correctly. There is only 4 Coinbase wallets remaining with 16.4 million XRP in each. So you just talked about the perfect storm. You can now add into the mix that supply on exchanges is reaching an all-time low for XRP, which is inevitable. We are going to see more demand for this product than we've ever seen before, because there's going to be more buyers of this asset than we've ever had in the history of this project. Now, the trillion-dollar question in the room that people continue to ask us every single day, when will BlackRock file for an XRP ETF? My belief is there is much bigger things happening in the background, including the tokenization of real-world assets and the tokenization of ETF products on top of blockchains. And we saw BlackRock make this announcement, I believe it was about 7 days ago, for the XRP community, Mario. Well, yesterday, the SEC gave us some very positive news, as the SEC has approved generic ETF listing standards for altcoins. What does this mean? Any altcoin that meets these standards going forward, it will not be subject to the 5 commissioners to decide. It will be subject to whether they pass these new regulations. And so if an altcoin can get listed like a Solana, like a Dogecoin, like a Cardano, then of course the XRP spot ETFs will be approved starting in the month of October. And for any of our listeners who don't know, Robbie Mitchnick, the head of digital assets at BlackRock today, is a former Ripple employee. 2 of our friends, the digital asset investor and Digital Perspectives, outlined a situation where BlackRock is not only aware of the XRP, they've actually been building on this product for several years. Here it is.
So according to everybody, Robbie Mitchnick and Susan Athey are the only people who have ever done a legitimate XRP valuation, right? When they did the valuation in 2018, then he just happens to go to BlackRock. Then he takes the Ripple affiliation off of his LinkedIn, didn't he, Brad?
Yep.
He took it off, and then now all he can talk about is Bitcoin. Now, I've got this igloo in South Georgia. It's only 80 or 90 degrees here. I'll sell it to you. I keep telling my audience, I'll sell it to you if you believe that this guy only understands Bitcoin and that's it. And BlackRock won't talk about anything else. Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're the only 2 ETFs. I guess BlackRock only has a Bitcoin, don't they? That's nonsense. I mean,
I think is so important about what DAI is stating here is that when BlackRock actually filed for their Bitcoin ETF, it turns out they had been accumulating Bitcoin behind the scenes for about 12 months. So that means a lot of these people who have already filed for an XRP ETF, for example, the evidence says they've already gone out and accumulated some of those tokens. Now, the inflows will really be turned on when we start to see the actual demand for the asset. But what I think his point is that all of these companies have known digital assets were going to be impactful since about 2018. We are in 2025 today. If you don't think BlackRock, the largest financial asset manager on the planet, hasn't done their research on XRP, I agree with DAI. He's got an igloo in Georgia that's for sale. Head on down there and purchase it right now. Mario, I want to hear some of your thoughts about how Robbie Mitchnick came from Ripple, is head of BlackRock, will not speak about XRP, but is willing to talk about Bitcoin. What does this mean to you?
Well, let's not forget, they're a company. They understand competition. They understand having an edge. And having an edge means that you got to keep secrets to yourself. It means they got to keep certain information outside of the public's ears because of that. So, the fact that these companies, the fact that we know that these companies, these issuers of these ETFs, have to, before launching the product, have to go out and buy the product, have to buy the actual, in this case, the XRP. That is a great indication that, it kind of ties in with what you showed on the Coinbase story of how their holdings of XRP have dramatically decreased. We're speculating heavily that it has to do with ETF purchases. We're speculating heavy that it may even be BlackRock related. But the reality is BlackRock is very strategic. The Bitcoin ETF only started to really move and gain traction when BlackRock got involved. And so who knows if they're waiting until literally the last moment to make a filing because of anything that they're working on the background. I think that that's the biggest anticipation is here, which is, we know that Robbie Mitchnick is heavily connected to Ripple. Why isn't there anything as far as BlackRock XRP ETF? And I think that we're going to get that question answered. And I do believe that it's going to be something that will shock most people, but a lot of us are already going to be expecting the fact that it may be connected with XRP. But nonetheless, Abs, I think that the fact that we're having these conversations and we're having these moments now where ETFs are at the forefront and these institutions are coming in. They were involved in 2018, but they were waiting for the governments to get their shit together, for lack of a better term, and create a regulation, create an environment where it was favorable for them to be able to do this. And we're getting to that point. And I think at this time, these institutions feel more confident in jumping in because we're getting closer to that regulation point. We're getting closer to that post-regulation point. And so I think we're just a few weeks away. We're not going to have to wait much longer.
And Mario, the most important part about that, Ripple is actively helping the US and United Kingdom craft this government regulation for the asset class. So instead of having their enemies in these regulatory positions, people like Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren, instead they have people they can openly communicate with, and actually long-term friends like Brad Garlinghouse and David Sachs. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to show you a video of Brad Garlinghouse discussing how the biggest catalyst for the company Ripple is receiving this U.S. federal banking license at the end of the year. Here it is.
You still want a banking license, right? Even though you have this deal with BNY.
Well, yes is the short answer. We have pursued and requested application to apply for an OCC license as well as a Fed master account. We think that the key here for crypto and the kind of decentralized finance, as many people call it, Ripple has been building bridges between traditional finance and decentralized finance. The world isn't going to be taken over by crypto. Instead, we think about how do we take the best of what crypto brings in facilitating faster, cheaper transactions and bring it to traditional finance. That's been at the heart of what Ripple has been focused on from the beginning. This is a step towards that, and certainly getting an OCC license. For those that have said that the crypto world wants to be unregulated, whatever, the opposite is true. I'm here in Washington in part, as you referenced, there's a Senate Banking Committee hearing today. We are advocating as an industry to be regulated. And those that, like Ripple, who have stepped forward and said, we want to get an OCC license, in addition to the licenses we have with the New York Department of Financial Services, it only continues to augment that very robust, very compliance-first, trusted partner so that we can continue to use these technologies to benefit consumers and businesses alike.
there you have it, Mario. The game plan was just outlined before our very eyes. And the big takeaway for me is that Ripple is actively working to improve the banking system, and they're going to be responsible for bringing these companies into the 21st century from a technology standpoint. XRP is going live on the New York Stock Exchange, and we'll see you all in the next one.